Our guest in the studio this morning is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. Steve, I'm trying to figure out which microphone you're on here.
Okay, did that work?
Try it again.
Okay, no,
No,
wait a
that's
minute.
not
There we
it.
go.
For some reason earlier, I couldn't pick you up on that microphone. I guess
Uh-oh.
I guess maybe when you moved it, whatever short was in it, you took care of that.
All right. That's what I do best is move things around and eliminate the short.
We are glad you're back after being away for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I just had to get out of town for a day or two.
We missed you at the county fair.
Yes, I missed the county fair. I really enjoy going to the fair and having a great time seeing people and you got to eat a whole bunch of fair food. Otherwise, you can't make it through the winter. And so many people that you can visit with and chat and catch up. And
Well, we had a good night the night you were away at the Republican Party booth.
I have heard from several people that it went very well. And I frankly didn't have very many concerns about how well it would go, but I understand it went very well.
We had a lot of visitors, and a lot of candidates came by.
Good.
And so we met, and it was great for me because people we didn't get on the air immediately that night ended up on the air with us last week.
Good.
And so we got people to give us overviews of their campaigns, and we'll be seeing some of them in the studio in the coming weeks, too.
I'm sure let's hope we do.
In fact, some of them may be joining you as well while I play hooky for a few days.
Yeah, I understand. But I was trying to catch up on my emails when I got back, and I looked at this one and I said, oh boy, looks like I'm going to have some things to do here for a few days.
When I've got my feet up on the railing at my cabin over by Jackson Hole.
Yeah, you won't even be thinking about me.
I'll be sitting there watching the grizzly go by.
Yep. And part of the little trip took us over through that Jackson Hole country, and it was still beautiful. However, they did get a little dusting of the white stuff this past
I'm sure
week.
there'll be 2 feet on the ground
So
when I'm there.
you will have a pretty healthy dose of it.
Yeah.
But you drive, you acclimated to Idaho and our driving situation here very comfortably. I think you now have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh boy, see what we have done for you. We have brought you into the modern age.
Some of the mountain passes, though, the snow does get deep, so we have to be concerned about that. Hey, we got to mention this notion from your standpoint. I'm sure as a Republican leader, even on a local level, what's going on with Hillary Clinton is like the gift that keeps on giving.
That's exactly right. This morning on one of the news blogs that I read, and I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, they said, we have talked with a bunch of doctors about pneumonia. And so almost without exception, all the doctors said, this situation that occurred Sunday is not indicative of what we would think or could see as pneumonia. It might be a clever answer to deflect the attention away from, but they both nearly all of them said this is not typical of pneumonia situations. And if she went to the doctor on Friday, okay, fine, take a day off and get better. And if it's really pneumonia, that's highly contagious. And nearly every one of the blogs said that's, wait a minute, what's she out doing mingling in crowds and hanging around with her staff and the Secret Service people and news media and the little girl on the sidewalk that run up to her afterwards? Hello. Give me a break. That is not indicative of pneumonia at all.
Well, we've got a caller with us, and I think that you're right, that there's something else going on here. We should just say, caller, you're up next. Steve Millington is our guest on News Radio 1310 KLIX, and you're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, yesterday on Hannity, and he seems to be, out of all the talk show hosts, he seems to be the one that's most grounded in reality of this situation. And he had a doctor on there, and he said that she shows signs of Parkinson's. So over the weekend, MSNBC was in a rush to try to, damage control after the video broke. And it was, this is how weak it was. Well, Trump needs to release his tax records, his tax, whatever you want to call them. And so that was their rebuttal, so to speak, for this. But to get back to her health, she is seriously something wrong with her. And you say to yourself, can she survive this? And again, in the end, will this have an effect? I asked this yesterday of Bill, but will this have an effect on the independents? And in essence, if we don't win this election, it's just like what Hannity keeps saying. We're going to be in deep doo-doo. I'll hang up. Thanks.
Thank you that's a good point. I watched part of Hannity's show last night, and I remember that visit with that doctor, and in his statement, this is not indicative of pneumonia. And this morning on one of the blogs I was reading, half a dozen doctors, this is not indicative of what we would call pneumonia.
I have to admit, I did not watch the politics last night. I was so impressed that the Steelers and Redskins came out and all stood for the national anthem.
Isn't that interesting?
Because one of the Steelers actually earned a Bronze Star in Afghanistan, so it was a little bit of a nice respite from some of the weekend's blues. We've got more coming up with Steve Millington in just a moment on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Our guest in the studio this morning is Steve Millington. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. Bill Colley with you as well. On Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 48. Coming up on 8:44. We have a caller with us. Caller has been very patient, trying to get through to us during the break. Caller, you're up next.
Well, we have a caller with us. Caller has been very patient.
Okay, got to listen to us over the air versus or on the phone rather.
Caller, you're up next.
All right, well, let's try line 2. You're up next. You're on the air.
Good morning, guys. Do you remember the song Coal Miner's Daughter? Well, Hillary represents herself as being a coal miner's daughter, but in reality, she is destroying the lives of these coal miner families. A lot of these people need a new roof, a new furnace, or whatever, and they're losing their homes, and it's affecting the communities because prices are going down with all the foreclosures, and a lot of these people are going to end up owing more money than the house is worth.
Well, she certainly doesn't represent traditional old blue-collar Democrats. That's true. We're going to try to get back to our previous caller. Get that caller on the air with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX.
Steve, I hate to disappoint you, but I did have pneumonia, and it went on for 2 weeks, and I was getting 2 shots, and I was at home coughing and everything. Nobody got, and I lost part of my lung over there at St. Luke's. So you know what? This pneumonia being contagious, the one I got did not. All my family was right there, and I was coughing. I had a fever. I was close to dying. But I never went to the hospital. A good doctor took care of me. 2 shots a day. I was good as new after that, after they took part of my lung out. But you know what? It's not contagious.
Well, in Clinton's case, her actual form is, from what the doctors have been saying. We want to wish him well, by the way.
Yeah,
that's nasty stuff to go through.
It really is.
Even though he may be sometimes devil's advocate with us, it's fun to have him on the program.
It's good to have his calls. Last night on Laura
Kelly File.
On the Kelly File, Megyn Kelly File, Maureen Dowd was on there, and she talked a little bit about an upcoming book that she has got coming.
You want to hear some of it?
And as part of that, she talked about Hillary Clinton's health issues.
Yeah, in fact, the two of them having a discussion, I think, where Dowd said Hillary Clinton might be her own worst enemy because it's not about the illness, it's about the cover.
It's about the cover-up.
Take a listen.
Let's talk about her some more because so much has happened just in the past couple of days. You've been studying the Clintons for a long time.
Right.
This business with her health.
Right.
They want us to give them the benefit of the doubt now that it really is pneumonia, that they knew that since Friday, that half the team has pneumonia. Have they earned it? Have they earned the benefit of the doubt, the Clintons?
No, and, I agree with David Axelrod, who said it isn't about the health, it's about the stealth. The health issue this week is a perfect microcosm of why she has problems. And, I started covering her in '92 when she first came on the scene, just as I did Trump in '99. And that's why I thought, I could give some context to this. And this is the exact same pattern she follows every time, where Trump has his wall and she has her wall of defensiveness and secretiveness. and just pushing back. The press can't know anything, and each time it gets worse because that spirals into a snowball, and the press and her foes get into a frenzy, and then the whole thing is so much worse when it starts out as relatively mundane.
And now that woman is not a member of the vast right-wing conspiracy.
Absolutely. And Maureen Dodd has got very few, if any, conservative thoughts in her presence. And she writes a very liberal line for the New York Times magazine, and she's been very well accomplished. I think they said she was a Pulitzer Prize winner and a long list of awards that she has. So when she talks, the key word to my point was the stealth. It's not the health, it's the stealth. And they want to, hold that microphone. They want to try to hide everything. Now this morning on the Fox News, Lorna Ingram was on there, and she said most of the Democrats have ADDDD. And she explained it. It's called attack, deny, deflect, and create disorder. And if you look at Hillary Clinton's approach to this little incident on Sunday, first she wants to attack everybody else. Then she denies that there's a problem of any kind. To deflect the whole situation, she begins to holler for Donald Trump's tax returns. And in an attempt to deflect any attention of any kind away from her and to someone else. And then they create disorder in the entire conversation so that nobody can remember what it is we're supposed to be talking about.
Did you hear where Dowd mentioned, by the way, that some of her relatives are deplorables too? Because
yeah, she did.
Their brother is a Trump supporter.
Yep, her brother and his sister are both Trump supporters, and they're listed in her book. She said that there's an essay in there from both of her siblings supporting Trump.
I don't always agree with Maureen Dowd, but I mean, she must be close to 70 years old, and she probably is the best-looking 70-year-old woman I've ever seen. I just wanted to mention that.
I didn't. I just listened to the soundbite.
On the other hand, it doesn't work out for me if they're liberals. I don't care how good-looking they are.
But it's interesting, and what I kind of saw is that there may be some cracks in the wall, a chink in the armor, if you will. When you get somebody like Maureen Dowd, who is as liberal as any reporter, writer that you can get a hold of, and she begins to question these kinds of things from Hillary Clinton's people, a campaign, and her person, then it's not going to take too much for other liberal media people to begin to question, well, what really is going on here? What exactly is happening?
We want to mention it's coming up on 8:51. It's 48. Steve Millington is our guest this half hour on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. A couple of folks coming by from the city of Twin Falls just after 9 o'clock news. We're going to talk about some of the roads, heavily traveled roads going into the canyon in the area, and some changes that may need to be made. Speaking of people commenting about what Hillary did, as we said, it's not about the illness. It's about the, quote, cover-up. This is Dr. Charles Krauthammer speaking last night with Brett Baer on Fox News.
It's a close call as to whether they should have said it. On Friday, she appeared to be able to sort of walk right through it without any obvious side effects. Well, she had them on Sunday. I think this is another case of the cover-up being worse than the crime. If it is what they say it is, this is totally benign. They explained it right away. And this, just as everybody can see, it just adds to the impression that these people are simply incapable of telling the truth, the simple truth. And on things where they're not really culpable, they should easily be able to explain it. They find a way to make her look untrustworthy. And that's where the damage is.
Now, sitting right next to him was Nina Totenberg from NPR, National Palestinian Radio, I believe. She's a liberal, but she said, I got to agree with him.
Yes, she did. And I watched part of that. And the conversation was, why do you keep covering everything up? Why don't you just come straight out and tell us she wasn't feeling well, whatever? Now on CNN Sunday, I think it was Monday broadcast, one of the reporters there was saying, let's take a look at Sunday. The temperatures were close to 100, and it was hot and sweltering and humid, and she had a jacket on, and then she just dehydrated. And then they went back and looked at the weather reports for, quote, ground zero area. The temperature was 77. The humidity was in the middle of the range, like 50, 55% humidity. There was a light breeze blowing. I mean, some of these people create stuff to cover up. They tell a lie when the truth actually sounds better.
I think that the key question is people want to know, are we going to have a president who's on the ball when a crisis happens, or are we going to have someone who's drooling on themselves? And that's what it comes down to. Caller joining us. Caller, you're on the air on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Good morning.
Good morning. I heard last night on a program that the powers that be for the Democratic National Committee met at 5 o'clock last evening to see who they could trot on in case she could not. Also, they said, too, that if things go badly, they would have to have Congress choose a president. Maybe your good man there could explain to us how that works in our government. Thank you.
Oh, boy. You may have just outrun my constitutional abilities here. The Democrat Party, if they decide that Hillary Clinton cannot continue to run for the election of president, they could have a mini convention and select someone to replace her on the ballot throughout the United States. And obviously, that would have to be a rather rapid, quick thing.
Ballots have to be printed
soon.
We're
to the point where we got to get things done. Now, they could have a mini convention. Senator Kane, is not, at this point, the nominee for president. He's the nominee for vice president. So they would have to have a convention and come up with a new nominee to run as or for the position of president of the United States.
I think they would go with him, though, versus Sanders or Biden, because I think that Kane would be the most acceptable candidate, and he would, I think, have the best chance of winning.
Well, the one commentary I heard was, if this thing should happen to blow up, you can rest assured that Joe Biden is not going to just walk off and forget it. Elizabeth Warren is going to make a lot of noise. And even Bernie Sanders, if he felt there was a chance, could come back from the dead, so to speak, and get right in the middle of it. So that would create another real interesting situation for the Democrat Party to get all of that done in order to get ballots printed and advertising and campaigning done between that. We've only got 8 weeks left. So it's a short window here that we've got to work with.
I think Bernie Sanders and the late William Kunstler shared the same hairdresser. I would hope that as president, someone would at least loan him a comb.
That would be nice. The pictures just wouldn't look very well. The other thing, this morning in a telephone conversation, a guy told me, he said, I think that Senator Kane is just beginning to hum the tune, "You will start and I will finish," indicating that, okay, she might get elected president, but there's a good chance she won't make it the full 4 years, and so he will ascend to the office of president because he's the elected vice president. And that would put him in perfect position to run for re-election.
We got about a minute left. Do you think Trump has handled this very well in the last few days?
As far as her health situation is concerned, I believe the best approach is, we wish you well, we want you to get better, and then leave it alone. They have done enough damage. The Hillary Clinton campaign has done enough damage to themselves trying to cover this thing up and sweep it under the rug, so to speak, that he doesn't need to address that one. The 2 or 3 things that he did address that I thought were very timely and very well done was in response to her deplorable statements. And for all of you people out there who have been put in the basket of deplorables, hang in there. We are not the deplorables, and we can do this thing. And And at one of his rallies over the weekend, he gathered up a bunch of people out of the audience and had them come up on the stage. And he said, these are the deplorables she's talking about. We have professional people, we have artisans, we have skilled laborers, we have truck drivers, we have, and he just went down the list of all these people that, quote, she put in this basket of deplorables. And I think that's not going to do her any good.
And they're
not
making
at all.
up T-shirts now, the deplorable
Yeah,
T-shirts.
the adorable deplorables.
We want to just make a quick mention this morning. I've got to just drop this in. A good friend of our show, Anna Workman, is having a birthday today. So if you see Anna, you've got to wish her a happy 39th. She's probably regrets now that she's a Facebook friend and that I know that because I saw it on that site this morning. Steve Millington, we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Next week, we'll be here. No trips planned. We should be in town.
Coming up on 9 o'clock, Bill Cowley with you as well. One more hour of Top Story is ahead on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Driving is becoming an issue on some of our canyon roads because the traffic is just getting so heavy. What are we going to do about it? Are improvements needed? Details coming up following news